I now call this regular meeting of the Davenport Community School District Board of Directors to order. First, I want to address the mask mandate is in place, which you all appear to be wearing your mask. If anyone has a medical exemption that you're not able to wear one, let one of the fellows in the back know, and we can address that then. Anyone refusing to, you'll be asked to leave. With that being said, if I can get everyone to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Teeing it up for you. Just teeing it up for you.
Director Potts, you're online, correct?
Yes, I am.
All right, would you please read the board priorities?
If you will show them on the screen.
Well, I'll tell you what, I will. Director Kleindrome, will you please read the board priorities?
The Davenport School Board establishes the following priorities to ensure the academic success of all students. Provide leadership and direction to improve the overall learning environment in our classrooms, schools, and district, including the health, safety, security, and happiness of students and staff. Direct and support actions, programs, and activities which reduce the impacts of poverty on our students, their families, and our community.
Thank you, Director Kleindrome. Director Snyder, would you please read the mission and vision statements?
Mission statement reads, to enhance each student's abilities by providing a quality education enriched by our diverse community. Our vision statement reads, education that challenges conventional thinking, prepares all students to compete in a global society, and inspires our students, parents, staff, and the community to answer the question, what if?
Thank you. Now I will turn it over to Vice President Hayes for this next section.
Thank you so much, President Gosa. As you all are aware, Director Snyder's last meeting is tonight, and we certainly want to thank him for everything that he's done for us and being on the board when I first started the board and then having to leave, and now due to work obligations having to leave again. So we're going to miss him, but we do have Nikki DeFow here to say a couple words for Director Snyder. Julie DeSalvo was going to come, and just before she got here, I guess something came up at work and she couldn't make it. So we just have previous Director DeFow that can speak regarding Director Snyder.
Thank you, Vice President Hayes. I've known Director Snyder for a number of years. Our children attended school together, and I had the privilege of serving alongside him on this board. And I admit to being very excited when he stepped forward to run this spring and to fill the vacancy that was left by Director Mayfield's passing. And that's because I know Jamie as a committed board member who makes decisions based upon the educational best interest of all of our students. Now, some may have wondered who in their right mind signs up to do this twice. But the Jamie I know saw a need, knew he could make a difference, and the next step was just a logical consequence. To my knowledge, only one other person has served on this board on 2 separate occasions, and Jamie is in very good company with former Director Pat Zamora, who remains a strong advocate for the district. So thank you, Jamie, for your commitment and dedication to this district, its families, our students, and staff. I'd also like to thank your family, knowing the sacrifices that they've made as you've served on the board. I know you will continue to be a champion for the district, and I know you will do what you can to be involved. And who knows, maybe someday the third time just may be the charm. So thank you.
Thank you very much. We will now. Are there any presentations? No presentations tonight. Student board members, what we'll do, just have you kind of introduce yourself, what school you go to, and then as soon as we do that, I believe the superintendent and I will meet with you all, and then, but you're free to go as soon as you do this part. We're going to start on this end with Miss Alazaziak.
Hi, my name's Brianna Alexiashik, and I'm a senior at West High School. I'm president of Student Senate, Falcon Friends. I'm involved in Junior Rotarians, NHS, and quite a few other things. I'm excited to be here.
Hi, I'm Sarah Burnick. I'm a senior at Davenport West. I participate in volleyball, tennis, dance team, Leo Club, Junior Rotarian, and I'm class president.
Hi, my name is Jamar White. I'm a senior at West High School, and I participate in West High School basketball.
Hi, my name is Gabriella Swales. I'm a senior at North High School. I'm the president of our student council and our drama board, and I am the vice president of our National Honor Society, as well as a participating member of our varsity show choir and various other choirs at North. I'm really excited to be here.
Student board members, thank you so much for coming tonight, introducing yourself to the board. We're very excited to have your voice at the table with us today. And as President Goza stated, he and myself, and probably Brenda T, because we don't do anything without her, are going to schedule a presentation with you that it will be very interactive in terms of onboarding you for this journey that we're getting ready to go on. Thank you so much for volunteering your time as our board members do in front of you to help lead our district. So thank you so much for being here with us tonight. To introduce yourself, our next regular meeting that we have will be December 15th, where you will be ready and willing and able to participate in our board meeting. So let's give them a round of applause for volunteering today. We thank you so much. And you are free to stay, but you are also free to go as well. Thank you for introducing yourself.
Yeah, thank you all very much. Board reports. Director Klein Jerome.
I would just like to say that it was nice to see Davenport West and Davenport North participate in the Veterans Day Parade. Wasn't the nicest of weather days, but they were out there. I know Central was out of town at a competition, but it was nice to see the band supporting the veterans.
Director Beck.
I was just going to say, I think all of the board members attended the IASB conference last week and spent some time learning how to be effective board members and networking with other board members across the state. And so it was a really useful activity, and I think we all got a lot out of it.
Director Hayes.
I was happy to see all of the bands from Central, West, and North at the Festival of Trees Parade. Very nice. The Central band was very festive in their snowflakes shirts, so that was a nice take on it. And again, in referring to Director Beck's comment about the convention, that was an awesome convention. We learned a lot. Both of the speakers, the morning and afternoon speakers, were great. So I'm sure at a later date you'll hear more from that.
All right. For board reports, Director Beck said we were all at the IASB convention, the 76th annual convention for IASB, Iowa Association of School Boards, where our board won the plaque for better boardsmanship, along with 4 board members won that, as well as the superintendent won award for all of our hard work in this district. Only seven school districts won the total board award, so with 330 districts in the state of Iowa, we're on the right track, moving the right way. So for all the board members that were there and all your hard work and extra time put into taking all these ISB classes and courses and all that, it's greatly appreciated. I don't know if you want to say anything on that, Superintendent Schlenkoff, or not.
Well, I think it is a testament to the board's leadership. If you look at the classes that we're taking, evaluation of superintendents, finance classes, all of those things you're seeing in application right now at the board level, evaluation of data. And then you look at the monthly meetings that the president and vice president host with the executive directors of IESB to really improve the leadership at the board table and superintendent level. And so I applaud the school board for going through that. It's not easy. I know that those conventions that are attended both in person and virtual, they're difficult to do when you have a full-time job and you're teaching. And so I just applaud our board for doing that because it's applicable. I see it becoming part of our practice. And so it's very nice when you're recognized for something like that. And the IASB convention, we learned a lot, and we got an opportunity to grow in that learning with our newest member, Karen Gordon, and she was with us attending sessions, and it was very unifying. So I'm proud of the work that was accomplished at the IESB convention and the networking that was done as well. So thank you for the opportunity to speak on that, President Goza.
Thank you, Superintendent Schlenkoff. Director Potts, did you have anything on board reports?
No, I do not.
Thank you. Any other board reports? Seeing none, I will move on to communications. Open forum. Open forum is a time for members of the community to give input at board meetings regarding school district issues or concerns. Individuals who want to speak, please fill out an open forum request and give it to the board secretary prior to open forum. The form is available in hard copy for in-person attendees or on the school board page of the district's website for those who want to participate virtually. Virtual participants must email their request to Brenda T. at tbren@davenportschools.org by 3 p.m. on the day of the board meeting. The board will not act on any issue presented during open forum if it was not published as an agenda item. Iowa Open Meetings Law prohibits action on any issue that is not on the agenda. The president may set the amount of time allowed for individuals to speak. The board asks that no charge or complaints be made against individual employees of the district or community. Remarks that reflect negatively on the character or motives of any person will be called out of order. Do we have any virtual? We have 6 open forums tonight. We will do 2.5 minutes apiece. Up first, I have Amanda Reinert, Patricia Dewicki. Did I say that right? Dwight.
How much time? I'm sorry. Are you first? Okay, I'll sit right here.
Oh, and make sure you state your name and address for the record.
Amanda Reinhardt, 320 Valley Ridge Road, Bluegrass, Iowa. I want to start by congratulating our new and re-elected board members on your win. I would like to point out, though, that normally when someone wins, that usually means that someone else has lost. And I would argue that it's our children that lost in this case. Now, I am by no means a sore loser. This group of dedicated parents will just have to refocus its energy on keeping a very close watch on the actions of this district and its board. It's disappointing to learn, though, that there are more misinformed, uneducated, or just plain brainwashed voters than there are those that have a love for freedom and their eyes open. Ms. Gordon, I wanted to let you know I watched both of the KWQC candidates.
Ma'am, you can't call out people by in. That's out of order. I clearly read that, so that's your second warning.
Okay. Sadly, I couldn't make the last meeting, but I want to point out that I really appreciate one of our directors, I guess, for calling this mask mandate exactly what it is, politics. By the way, did anyone else notice that Muscatine schools voted to remove their mask mandate last week, making Davenport the only Iowa district in the area to be forcing medical devices on our healthy children? If a mask mandate was actually a solution, we would have seen the positive case rate drastically decline in the schools, except that's not what's happening. If this was actually a solution, Edison Junior High and Rock Island School District wouldn't have had to close for 3 weeks due to an increase in COVID cases, considering they've had a mask mandate in place since the beginning of COVID. I did watch the live stream of the last meeting since I was unable to attend in person. I'm glad you all seem to have gotten your hot mic issues worked out. I'm going to play just a quick clip for you of my favorite part of the meeting on October 5th, or 25th, sorry.
Paper clipped whatever thing to go, and then I went in there to swipe it during the drama, and they it wouldn't let my badge recognize my badge.
They're like, this thing smells like weed.
It's my new one.
Oh, okay.
Here's what you need to know. I pulled something last time. This is the projector for the room.
Just in case any of you couldn't hear what was being said, it was one of our highly paid administrators referring to parents and children voicing their opinions to the board as the drama, along with the board's president joking with her about her illegal drug use, followed by my favorite part where our superintendent informs them that everyone can still hear them. These are the people that are supposedly making decisions based on the well-being of our children. See you all next time.
How long do we have? I'm sorry, I missed that. 2?
Two and a half.
Darn, we lost a half a second. Anyways, Patricia DeWyke, 2651 West 34th Street, Davenport, Iowa, of course. Well, I have so many gamut of things to talk to you all about, but I have 2 minutes. I am really over having my child have to call me in the middle of the day from the bathroom hiding in the stall because she's standing up for Jesus instead of the Rainbow Club. And I am sick of her being bullied by the teachers because her face mask was bothering her. And she asked for one of these. And you know what the teacher told her? Those cost money. You can't have one. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 of them. I paid for them because I am a taxpayer. My daughter doesn't need to be bullied by a teacher about a face mask. Like, if you're not willing to talk to us, when can we schedule a meeting? I'm done. Like, stop letting this happen. Stop indoctrinating children. Every time I walk into a school building, there's some indoctrination on some wall of whatever they're bringing into the world of these kids. I shouldn't know your politics. My kids shouldn't know your politics. My kids shouldn't know if you're for the Rainbow Club or Jesus. This is a public school. They shouldn't know if you're a Democrat. They shouldn't know if you're a Republican. They don't care if you're Black Lives Matter or Purple Lives Matter or White Lives Matter. And they shouldn't get in trouble because they're scared that they're white. Are you kidding me? My daughter wants to be in a club called the Pearls Club. She's white. Guess what? She's not allowed. Why? Because she's white and it's for black kids only. Is there segregation going on in our schools now too? That's okay with you? You want to segregate our kids, indoctrinate our kids, change their races, change their sexes, change their names, all during the school day when they're supposed to be learning about their education and their future and their goals in life, not about indoctrination. When's it gonna stop? When? When are you guys gonna go knocking on these classrooms and be like, that's not appropriate? That is not school bound. That's not school related. It is not to do with social studies. It's not to do with math or any of it. When are you going to make it stop? I'll take my seat.
Up next, I have Jenny Corson, James Quinn,
Do you guys know what speech reading is? Maybe you can't understand because people with speech impediments, you guys are requiring to cover their faces. Speech reading is when somebody looks at a speech impediment and they read their face, they read their mouth, they read everything about them to help people understand them. You are refusing the children the opportunity to do this. Is that better? Now you can understand me more. Now you can read my mouth. Now you can appreciate what I have to say. You guys are taking this away from the children. I heard everything you guys had to say about how great Davenport is, and I wish that were true. But on edradar.com, it says 49% of high school students in Davenport are above math proficiency. Only 62% can read when they graduate. How is that possible? How is that possible? You guys are charged with educating these kids. What kind of job are they going to get if they cannot read, if they cannot add, if they cannot subtract? That is what you are charged with doing, not indoctrination. One more thing. On Facebook, the McCullen Heights Witches Coven left a message for somebody on the school board. I'm not going to mention names so I don't get kicked out, but I am going to make sure everybody sees this. Let me read to you what it says. McCullen Heights School, or Witches Coven has the power of Lucifer on her side. The test scores will go up.
Your time is up.
Allison Beck, do you have Lucifer on your side? The public deserves to know.
That's out of order.
This what your school hallways look like too? James Quinn, 3536 West 29th Street. So here we are again, another week of abusing your kids. But you say you're not hurting our kids. You say you follow the CDC guidelines. Well, CDC just came out with their holiday edition just this week. And it says, wear a well-fitting mask over your nose and mouth if you are in public settings, if you are not fully vaccinated. That's the CDC guidelines. Want to know what the school guidelines are? When indoors, athletes and athletic officials may remove their mask when actively participating in their sport. And people who play in band and people in performing arts and people in choir, they have other rules. So you guys aren't following CDC guidelines. You're making up rules as you go along. And you know you can do this because you've distanced yourself. You're not the one slapping the mask on a second grader. Okay, you pass that down to the superintendent. He passes it down to the cabinet. Cabinet passes it down to the administration. Administration passes it down to the teachers. The teachers are the ones that you're doing this to. So let's stop doing that, okay? I got a challenge for you. Tomorrow morning, each one of you, go to an elementary school. Take a box of masks with you because I hear they're running out. But take that box of masks, stand at that front door, and every second and third grader that comes through there, don't just hand them a mask. You plaster a mask on their face, and you make sure it's tight according to CDC guidelines, okay? And then you stay there for a couple hours. Make sure that kid doesn't touch that mask. Make sure they don't sneeze in that mask. Make sure they don't rip it so you have to get another one. No, you lay this all on your teachers. You guys think that you're separated, but you're not. You are the ones responsible. Really? I still got time? Great. Well, let's go with why you saw Muscatine just drop theirs, so you guys are now have that distinction of being among the 5% of school districts in the state of Iowa who can't figure out how to keep our kids safe without muzzling them and without threatening them. You guys are in the 5%. Davenport used to be a leader. Okay, you guys aren't leaders anymore. You're followers. And you're following this doctrine of fear and arrogance, and you are hurting our kids, whether you want to believe
Your time
it
is
or not.
up.
Thank you. I thought it was about time. Appreciate it.
Jamie Cook and Alexander Cook.
Jamie Cook, 11624 110th Avenue. I have to do some editing on the fly, I guess. TS, your base salary is $239,000 a year, of which you're only required to work 230 days out of that year when you factor in sick and personal days. That's $1,039 a day. How much do those special education programs cost in a year? A good person in that position would donate and or suggest a smaller salary to help pay for those important programs. Then again, y'all shown us what kind of people you are lately. You have voiced that your opinion of our opinion publicly is drama, while President chuckles about how someone's badge smells like weed. I may not be a doctor, but I do know how to drink out of a water bottle. You asked the health department in the last meeting if he was saying vaccine mandates for kids would be effective, after he said we are at least months and months and months. He said months 3 times. Weird. Because the data and studies simply is not there. Why would that even be a question that comes up after a statement like that? Your reading scores report, you had a group of kids with lower scores despite receiving the same direction, but instead of asking why, is there a parent involvement? And if not, why? Are they a 2-parent household? Do they live in a single-parent household struggling to put food on the table and make rent? But instead of asking yourselves, what can we do to help? Is there anything happening in their environment that we could help with, like tutoring or after-school programs? Instead, what do you think about? The color of their skin. The meeting with the Special Olympics, you were blown away by these cards about inclusion and basically how to be a decent person to someone with special needs. I was really impressed by these cards. They could be applied to more than just the school district.
Your time is up. Thank you.
I'm getting headaches from wearing my mask all day, and it hurts. Some kids are calling me a bully because I don't want to wear my mask. They treat me badly, and when I stick up for myself, they start rumors and I get in trouble. School used to be one of my safe places, but now it feels like jail. I want to be comfortable at school again. I want to stop feeling mad and alone at school. I want my freedom back.
I didn't write that for him. That was him.
Thank you, everyone, who participated in open forum. The board appreciates all of your input. We will now move on to the consent agenda. May I have a motion on the consent agenda?
Mr. President,
Director Hayes,
I move the board accept the consent agenda as written.
is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Director Snyder. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. Director Hayes?
Yes.
Director Snyder?
Yes.
Director Potts?
Yes.
Director Poston?
Yes.
Director Klein Jerome?
Yes.
Director Beck?
Yes.
My vote is yes, motion carries. May I have a motion on approval of bills?
Mr. President,
Director Snyder?
I move that the board approve the bills from the bill listing period of 11/3/21 to 11/16/21. Resolved, all claims presented to the board having been duly certified as correct by the treasurer, reviewed by the administration and board members, and they are hereby just and allowed as just claims and warrants drawn on the treasury for the several amounts. Further resolved, the payment of claims and salaries be approved as presented for the periods 11/3/21 to 11/16/21.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Director Poston. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. Director Snyder?
Yes.
Director Poston?
Yes.
Director Beck?
Yes.
Director Klein Jerome?
Yes.
Director Hayes?
Yes.
Director Potts?
Yes.
My vote is yes, motion carries. Superintendent report.
I have two items. First one, I would like to thank, this is kind of a legacy piece for Director Snyder. Director Snyder and Dr. Beck have been working very closely at resetting our LCAC. Last week, I had an opportunity to attend LCAC, and the purpose of LCAC is to inform the school board. And so I want to let you guys know that I went to that committee asking about some input on several items, and we had wonderful discussion, so much to the point to where we had to extend the meeting, and many people were okay with that because of the rich discussions and recommendations that were happening. And that wouldn't be possible without the work that you guys put in, along with our central office staff members that are working very tirelessly at that. So Director Snyder, here in the near future, that committee will be coming and recommending things to the school board. And I know that's exactly one of the legacy items that you will be leaving behind as you step off of our board meeting, our board tonight, but also we hopefully joining that committee moving forward. So thank you for that. The committee members were discussing next steps moving forward with some of our ESSER dollars, and there were some very positive things, as there are some rich community organizations on there and community members there. The second report that I'd like to give is that earlier on this month, our board members went and previewed key initiatives inside of our building. Example, touring our buildings across the district to watch our early literacy in action. And we would like to extend the same thing. So you will see a sign up to visit buildings to see our youth leadership teams in action from elementary to high school. And so please pay attention to that as it comes from Brenda, and sign up as our students and staff members are looking forward to seeing you. These are powerful teams in our buildings, and they're having a huge impact where they are up and running with good fidelity. Our students are owning those teams, and it's fantastic. They most recently have reviewed or will review our conditions for learning data, which is critical to our students and families. So please look out for that invitation. We will have several central office staff members leading you on those tours, and they're slightly different this time. And so looking forward to that interaction as well, seeing a different component of the Davenport plan. That concludes my report, Board President.
Director Poston.
I just have a question, and I don't want this to don't take this the wrong way, but when we had the early literacy visits, I just feel it's too scripted. Okay, and you got three administrators and a school board member coming into a room. I think it's a little overwhelming for the kids and the teacher. What I would prefer is that the school board member just go in on their own, or possibly with the principal, and because I don't want it to be a distraction. I just want to be there to learn and observe. And so again, like I said, I just feel it's too scripted.
Thank you for that feedback.
Committee reports. Director Poston.
Last week, the Finance Committee met. We met with Gary Sinclair in person. It was a 3-hour meeting. A number of things that we covered, and Kevin, I think, is going to bring up some of our key measures that we're going to look at. The one thing I want to emphasize to all the board members is that, again, we cannot feel that we're out of the woods as far as finances. We definitely have to stay on top of this. Open enrollment out is hurting us. We've got to work at right sizing the district, and I've said this numerous times, but I want to keep this in the forefront of all the board members. We definitely have to stay on top of this. And the other thing we talked about were ESSER dollars. And again, as Gary Sinclair said, the Davenport School District has not been very good about an exit plan on some of these one-time dollars. And so we've got to be real careful about that. The other discussion we had is to continue to have Gary Sinclair on board as a consultant. And I don't know, Mr. President, if we need to have a motion on that, or whether you just accept that as a recommendation from the Finance Committee. We feel Kevin and his staff are doing a fabulous job. They're carrying most of the load, but I still feel it's good to have a second pair of eyes on this. And so the Finance Committee felt strongly that we should continue to use his services. So I don't know if you want to have any discussion on that or not.
I'll have to check into that. I know we brought that up when we met with the Department of Ed, and they said Cassandra Klein was the one that would be helping Kevin out to review that. That was, but I mean, we can check with her on that.
As far as I'm concerned, I don't know why the Department of Ed has their nose in this. I think this is something that we can make this decision. And again, that was their recommendation from the very start that we engage Gary Sinclair, and he's been very helpful. And why wouldn't we continue to do that? I cannot figure out why they would not want us to do that.
I will check on that, and then I can bring it back to you. Superintendent Schneckler.
The Long Range Facility School Board team met last Friday, and We reviewed the next steps with President Goza. Director Potts was unable to attend. He had some prior engagements. Basically, we looked at the team, the location, and the materials of our first meeting, which is next Tuesday. And we worked out some logistics, but also looked into kind of fine tuning the reports that will be shared. I'm very excited about the materials and the mindset that's being put together right now by the long range facility committee. We have a mixture of Bray is bringing to the table years of experience and knowledge on how to move forward with a long range facility plan and right sizing and those concepts. Also having Dan and Bruce on that committee, having a knowledge of construction that Dan has and the background knowledge that Bruce brings to the history of the district really allows us an opportunity to give Bray really good feedback and kind of plow the road for them to get the work done that they needed. I know we met for, I think it was about an hour and a half on Friday. Dan, is there anything that I missed from that meeting?
One of the takeaways from there, I believe it's going to be the February committee of the whole. Bray will come and do a presentation to the board because they're going to go around and meet with the different district teams. Each building's they're gonna host some. I'm drawing a blank right now.
You're absolutely right. In each region, we're hosting that facility master planning committee.
And then they're gonna kind of come back to us with what they gathered from those meetings in the different areas.
Exactly.
Yeah. They have, I think, like is it 7 different scenarios? It was 7, right?
15 to 20.
15 to 20. Okay. 15 to 20 different scenarios. Hey, what would your perfect district look like this? And then gather all that information, then kind of put something together and then bring it and present it to the board. I don't even think it'll get presented to the committee till after they do all that stuff too.
Correct.
How many people are on this committee? Like, are there community members or?
There are approximately 60 people on the facility master planning committee. There's 2 people from each building.
But nobody who's not with the district, is that correct?
Say that one more time.
Nobody who is like a community member that doesn't work for the district.
Correct.
They're not on there.
No, there is a member from the building, somebody from
and
the
a
building,
parent or
and a community
okay.
member from the building. Yes.
Thank you.
From each building, represented on the committee. Thank you. I would say the last part that we are compiling is right now their engineers, their architects are going through our buildings to get an exact state of the district, and also one of the reasons why we selected this architecture firm was the demographers that they have. And so right now they have a lot of experience with open enrollment. They have a lot of experience working with cities, and they've really partnered with each one of our cities. They reached out to Davenport, Bluegrass, Buffalo, Walcott to check into the growth that they have, the statistics, the census data that our current cities own, and they're really working hard for that to compile some really good data for us to make the best decisions possible.
In each city, so Buffalo, Bluegrass, Walcott, I got them all right, and Davenport, all they're involved as well, and they're giving their input on what their growth is going to look like and things like that.
And that concludes the long-range facility plan.
Director Passion.
Well, just 2 things. I sat in on a session where Bray and Associates were involved, and they did help with the bond referendum for Comanche Community School District, and then there were board members on that, and so it was very successful. And just as Superintendent Snakeloff said, they went out and did the surveys and everything, and went and found out what the community wanted, and it. So that made me feel a little bit better about our selection of who we have on board for doing this. I think they did a really good job there. And then, unrelated to this, but going back to the Finance Committee report, were we going to have Kevin present the key measures? Or
absolutely.
Are you going to do that later?
We're going to do that right next.
Okay.
Right next. So again, I want to applaud. This is our second round, and to exactly what Director Poston is saying, we wouldn't be able to implement the system that we have now if it weren't for Gary Sinclair. He has a great financial mind. He has helped us immensely. We know that we can stand on our own 2 feet, and we're going to do that. The work that occurred in our last finance meeting is an exact result of that. We sat down and went through key measures. We went through assumptions. We had wonderful discussions about the intimate knowledge that we have about our district to set our 5-year budget. To quote the great Gary Sinclair, hope is not a strategy. So gathering all the information and data that we have been putting together these key measures. And so, again, I want to thank our board finance committee members because they come in, they're prepared, they're early, they ask great questions. I would consider it a meeting where people really do put everything on the table, because the last thing we want to have happen in this district is not have transparency with our finances and not be moving in the right direction with our finances, which we are. So with that being said, Kevin, I know this is our first report as we have been working with Forecast 5 to really get our projections uploaded. So Kevin, if you would walk us through our monthly fund report key measures, that would be a good next step for this group, and then we can come back and circle around for questions afterwards. And as you notice, we're transitioning our goal, and I want to applaud our board members for this, as they're kicking off, just as many of our board members do for the committees that they run. Our board members are kicking off exactly what's happening inside of those committee reports as they are recommending to the school board, and that's exactly what is occurring in the majority of our committees. So this committee is coming alive, and that's one of the measures that we use to see that happen. So thank you, Kevin.
All right. Tonight I'm going to present to you 3 different reports. The first 2 reports you've seen on a regular monthly basis. The first one is our where we're at today for our report through September 30th. The second one is our key measures. And the third one is our 5-year projection. So we're going to start with where we're at today. You'll see on this report a couple things I want to point out. On our revenues on the top, this is the first quarter. We're 25% of the way through the year. That our revenues are sitting at $16.4 million. It's a little lower than FY21, but you have to remember FY21 is a very unique year where we started receiving ESSER funds. So there's going to be throughout the whole year, there's going to be some variance that is going to be needed to be explained. So for example, on our revenue, our federal revenue in FY21 was $2.2 million. It's sitting at $86,000 this year. That is because in FY21, we were finishing the spending of ESSER 1 and starting to spend ESSER 2 funds. So those funds are received. ESSER 1 especially is the fund that they gave us in advance, where ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 are, we have to spend it and then we get reimbursed. The reimbursement is done on a quarterly basis. So the reason that you see $86,000 in federal receipts is we have not received the first quarter of ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 funds that we have submitted. You will see that come back in October, possibly November, depending on when the state reimburses us. So there's a difference between ESSER 1, ESSER 2, and 3. So relatively speaking, you'd almost have to look back to FY19 and FY20 for a comparison. It's a lot more closely aligned to where we were in the past years. On the bottom 2/3 of the page, you'll see expenditures, and there's a similar effect. You see that we spent $19 million in salaries, where in the prior year we spent 15.4. There's an effect of some COVID effect that was happening that beginning of FY21. You have to remember, you have to go back to the beginning of the fiscal year, not what happened in the entire year. We're just 3 months in. But when you go back to FY19 and FY20, it's more closely aligned to where our expenditures are. The same is true with the benefits, except on the benefits side, remember we've been reducing staff as we go. We've had retirements. We've had people go off our insurance. You'll see that that's starting to decline. So that's starting to be the net effect after we've had some staff reductions from the first quarter of FY21 to the first quarter of FY22. Any questions on that before I move over a little bit to the right? That is our general fund. The three columns on the right are our other funds, activity, management, and sales tax. I'm going to get into more detail on sales tax on another slide that's coming up. But they're nonetheless important, but I wanted to focus on the general fund tonight. On page 2, there's a couple things I want to point out. These are the rest of the other funds. You'll see that towards the bottom, especially in the nutrition fund, you're going to see a negative ending fund balance. That is, first of all, the annual beginning fund balance, the $576,000, that was propped up last year in June when we made a request to transfer funds from the general fund into the food and nutrition fund to prop that up for lost revenue and to maintain our staffing. The ending balance, some of that effect is because we are not getting as many commodities from the federal government. It's a supply chain issue that we're seeing all across the country. There's been a ton of articles out there about how they can't get the amount of food. They can't set menus. We're having to buy. We don't get the discounts that we get from the commodities. So there's going to be effect there, and we're watching that, and we may have to come back at the end of the year and prop that up again if the supply chain continues as it is. We're aware of that. We're not surprised, but we'll be continuing to watch that. Any questions on where we are year to date right now? Okay. On the next report, this is our key measures report. You'll remember you've seen this in the past as well every month. This is through September, and you'll see our first key measure is our unspent authorized budget. It's the one key measure we've been working very hard the past couple of years on. You'll see for FY22, we anticipate being at a 6.8% budget UAB ratio. The goal is to be between 5 and 15. You're right that we're not out of the woods yet when you're sitting at 6.8%. It's on the low end of the scale. And you remember I always said trend is in the right direction. We're still better off at this time right now as we were a year ago. So that's good news in that piece. We still got work to do, as Kent mentioned. The second key measure is the UAB for the entire year when you continue with the carry forward. So those two measures go together. When we're sitting at an estimated 97% of our budget spent, to have that 3% doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're talking $200 million, this is a significant difference. The other key measure is our solvency ratio, and we're going to talk more about that on the next slide as well, but we're sitting at about a 12.9% solvency ratio for the end of FY22 from our budget, and we're projected to be a little bit better than that. I believe that's a little high in comparison because if you remember July and August salaries and benefits, there's some of that is put into the prior year. So that 13.8 will come down a little bit as we even out our spending going across the year. On the second page, if you remember when we certify our budget, there's 4 key numbers at the very bottom. You'll see I highlighted that in yellow. This is the budget that we certified, published in the paper. We amended this last year for FY21. There were some edits that need to be done. We will keep an eye on these two. You'll see that the support services and non-instructional programs are sitting at negative, is what's projected. Some of that effect, the majority of that effect, is because of ESSER funds. If we don't project enough spending of ESSER funds when we certified the budget last April, that we will make an amendment to that just to notify that we will spend more. But we'll watch this. This is very, very early in the year. But I just wanted to point that out. When you see a negative number like that, it makes you pause. And I'm keeping an eye on that completely so that when we get to March and April, we'll do an amendment if we need to. Any questions on the key measures report? Okay, the last one is the big one, and this is the what I believe is the exciting part. Again, we did work with Gary for hours and hours, and even before then, we worked with the finance team behind the scenes to try and get some assumptions that are realistic. One thing Gary told us, like you said, hope isn't a strategy, but when we put these numbers together, and I'm going to go through some of these are as close to realistic numbers that we can have. We can shoot for the moon and say everything's going to be great, enrollment's going to be up, state supplemental assistance is going to be up, but that's not real. We can also do the opposite and say it's going to be horrible, we're going to lose thousands of kids, we're not going to get any supplemental assistance. That's not reality either. So we're trying to get something that's close to something that is palatable, that's realistic, and that's what this 5-year projection does. There's a couple things I'll get to on the next slides, but there are essentially, if you look at the yellow, our certified enrollment for the first line, this is projected. 2022 is our actual. 2023 is actual because that's the funding. 2023 comes from the funding from our October 1 count of this year. Keep that in mind, we're a year behind in our funding as far as the count compared to what we receive, because I'm going to mention that again. So this is based on some changes, and you'll see certified enrollment declining a reasonable amount, our certified in total out. Our supplemental state aid is the next line that I wanted to mention. We had a 2.4% in 2022. We did an across the board 2.3% supplemental aid each year for the next 5 years. It won't be that, but we had to have something that was reasonable again. The third assumption we made is our cash reserve. I'm going to touch on cash reserve and solvency ratio in a little bit, so remember that we have increased our cash reserve to help our solvency ratio with the taxable valuations changing at 2.5% across the board. We put supplemental SBRC requests and special ed supplemental SBRC requests, and you'll see those numbers going across. We're working on special ed to help reduce our overspending. So we put something that was realistic where we had some measured steps to keep getting that deficit reduced. And then on page 2 on this report, this is where we did some, up one, right there. We had some staffing changes. Sorry, page 1, the bottom half. When we talk about right-sizing our staff, I know we're talking about right-sizing our staff when it comes to buildings. We are right-sizing our staff with the building structures that we have. We did this summer, and we will do it again this fall. So these are realistic effects of declining enrollment that we saw above of what can be reduced for staffing as it relates to enrollment. The one thing that does not take into account is to assume that there's closures, any of that, because there are costs, not just staffing, there's operational costs, there's other overhead costs. When those decisions are made, when we do the projection next year or the following year, when we have that, we will have that incorporated into this for the new 5-year plan. So just keep in mind, this is where we're at today with the structure that we have today. So these are assumptions that we made to have staff reductions. The other part on the very bottom where you see the management fund, this relates directly to our tax rate that we're going to hit on the next page. If you remember, we did multiple retirement packages. As people age out, I'm going to say, as they come off of our insurance plan, we will not have as many expenses to cover. So we won't have to tax as much in our management fund. This is 100% board driven for property taxes, local property taxes. So we've started to decline on the management fund dollars. When we get to the next page, you'll see that our fund balance will be fairly consistent. So we're being very, very cautious of what the tax rate is and how this affects the tax rate. And you'll see that on the next page. On the next page, I know this is a lot of numbers, but this first chart is our fund balances based on the assumptions that I just explained and where we'll be. You'll see that all of our funds are pretty much in line. I do want to mention a couple items on those. You'll see our fund balance for the general fund consistently stays at 21 to 18, 17 million. It's starting to even out so that we do not have any peaks and valleys. The one that does increase, though, is when you see our capital projects fund. Again, I haven't put anything in here that says we're going to spend money on buildings right now. You'll see that it goes from 11 million to 13, and it balloons all the way up to 22 million. When we have the facility plan complete, that will be incorporated into this this line as well as in the PEPAL fund to show that you'll see where the spending goes, and you'll see how those fund balances are affected. The next assumption is the tax rates. We made an assumption that we will go from, we're at 1530 right now to 1560 and 1590 for a tax rate. But you have to kind of read it between the lines a little bit. You'll see the management fund, for example, was sitting at 99 cents a thousand. And you'll see it slowly decline all the way down to 56 cents a thousand. A lot of that is taken up because we need to increase our general fund cash reserve because of our solvency ratio. And you'll see that on the next page. I'll show it to you visually as well. But we've tried to maintain a tax rate that will allow us to provide the programs that we have and stay solvent. If you remember when I say cash reserve does not affect your unspent authorized budget. It does have everything to do with your solvency ratio. Surtax does not apply, but on the next further down, your unspent authorized budget, this is the one, again, that we've been looking at consistently, and you're going to see that we're going to be getting with this model exactly where we need to be. We're sitting at 7%. That's great. It should be between 5 and 15. 10 is a great mark to be at, and you'll see by the time we get to FY27, that is sitting exactly at 10%. I think I mentioned another meeting that if we were right around $20 million, that is the right spot to be in, and that we're healthy in this key measure. The next item is the solvency and maximum levy. The maximum levy is just the maximum that you can cash reserve. This is the one that we'll be working on. I mentioned it early on this summer that our solvency ratio is going to need to be addressed in the future. Solvency is just basically what you have for cash in the bank. You'll see that we're sitting at a 12.9% solvency ratio. You'll notice it is a trend going in the wrong direction. We're fine at 7%, 6%, 5.9%, but we will need to be addressing this in the future. There's only two ways you can address it. Increase your cash reserve, reduce your expenditures. We're going to be working on both ends of that going forward. But this is assuming that we have that 1590 in the future years, but we're increasing our cash reserve, reducing our management fund to try and maintain a balanced tax rate. The next slide is exactly the same thing, just in a visual. you'll see that our certified enrollment is got that slow decline. And the state supplemental aid relatively flat as well. That's because we put it at 2.3% in this model, but you can see what's happening with our enrollment. In the orange, you'll see our UAB. Again, what we've been focusing on, and this is probably the most important indicator, that we're getting to exactly where we need to be in this model. On the third item on there, this is where our solvency ratio lies, and you'll see there's a spike and then a decline. The spike is because those 2 years in 23 and 24 is our ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 funds that bring that up, but then it comes right back down when we come out of that. Since we do property taxes 1 year at a time, we do our aid and levy 1 year at a time, we'll be looking at this and doing a reforecast of this every year and adding another year to it. Any questions on the 5-year projection or any of the assumptions that we made?
Director Klein, Jerome.
Kevin, just to clarify a couple things, the where it says teacher net change, teacher leaving, replacing, we're making the assumption that 10 teachers, and we know it will be more than that, will be leaving the district, and that we would be replacing 3 of them. So that 7 in red, that's why that is. We're saying that we know people are going to leave, but we probably will not be replacing all of them. The second thing is when you look at that tax rate at 15.9 is what we were, 2 years ago? Is that correct, Kevin?
That's correct.
Okay, so we are not going higher than a tax rate we have already had 2 years ago.
Director Beck.
Yeah, I had a couple questions. Number one, I kind of started making some notes. The change in enrollment, the certified enrollment is, and actually the served enrollment, yeah, Brenda, it's the very top page there. The change is really large in FY 2022, not much in 2023, and then it goes back up again. Why are the numbers so much lower in it's 58 students instead of at least a couple hundred?
The 58 is an actual number. That was our change in enrollment.
Oh, right, okay.
What we did was we went pre-COVID and looked at what a 3-year rolling average was in the prior 3 years to get our enrollment change. We did not want to use an effect of a COVID year when we lost students. It's an anomaly. So we tried to use a 3-year average for that change so we could get something that was logical, that we could defend.
Okay.
And that's why that changed like that.
Okay, and so then the 2024 and forward are projections based on the year prior, right?
Yes.
Okay. So that answers that question. The next one was on that same page, the TIF taxable valuation percent change. It says 23% for 2022, and then the rest are all 2.5%. Can you explain that? I'm assuming that's tax increment financing, right?
Yes, tax increment financing.
Yeah.
That's all done by the city and the county of how that is affected. I believe there was probably something that got put on the TIF rolls in 1 year. That's why that 23% is an anomaly. But typically it's even less than 2.5%. But if there's going to be growth, that could be higher, it could be lower, but we tried to do a fair amount that was close to an average in prior years, not related to an anomaly like that 23%.
Okay, so we wouldn't have counted that 23% in our, like, it wouldn't have gotten extra weight if we were trying to come up with an average amount. That's
Correct.
A weird year.
Correct. Our per pupil amount is driven on that. It just would change. It would change the tax rate because when there's TIF not on, the tax rolls that we get, it'll affect the whole tax rate in its entirety. So that's taken into account now, and that 2.5% rolling forward. But the entire tax, this is assuming the entire valuation, taxable valuation goes up 2.5% as well.
Okay, okay. And then my last one was just more of a clarification. On the general fund, this is I don't remember what number page this is. The one that says, no, go down, next page, I think. Yes, the top line there. So at a glance, if I were an average person, I would look at that first line there, the fund balance in the general fund, and see that it is 31 million in 2022, and it's steadily declining until 2027. And we spend a lot of time talking about how our general fund is the one that we spend the most out of, and we need to be careful about that one. So could you explain sort of to the average person why you are not freaking out that that number is going down like that? Or maybe you are.
I'm not freaking out about it so much as the fund balance is what we have after we have paid all of our bills and received all the dollars that we are to receive. That does not have anything to do with our solvency ratio. Unspent authorized budget. Our unspent authorized budget is authority to spend. That's different than our fund balance. Our fund balance, you have to think it as a balance sheet, as if we were to close our doors at that point in time, what is the value of that fund? That's what this would show. A lot of this effect is we're reducing our categorical funds as we spend those too close to zero. But it also has to do with our cash reserve. If you remember, we're doing all this SBRC request. We're requesting $6.7 million in special ed deficit. We have ELL deficits. There's things that happen like taxes that people pay. If they don't pay them, we have the authority, but it won't be in this fund balance. So one thing this is part of what we have to work on with our cash reserve that will affect this fund balance is it will start to bring that back up. We know that our solvency ratio is going to continue to decline, and we'll have to work on that part. But you'll notice that it's the opposite direction of our unspent authorized budget. That is because of our cash reserve is not as high as what we're getting from SBRC requests for our ELL, special ed, all of those SBRC requests that we're making. That gives us the authority. It doesn't give us the cash. So our cash reserve is lagging behind on our ask for SBRC.
Okay, so the unspent authorized budget ratio, that's the thing, and the unspent authorized budget itself, that's something that we've focused on for several years now. And so those numbers are going up. So it's really a matter of, we want to make sure that we're not spending our authority in the negative. That's what the issue was before, right?
That is the number one indicator that we use. The solvency ratio in that fund balance is being able to pay your bills in July and August. If you remember, we don't get state aid until September 15th. That's our first payment. So July and August, we get very little income. So we need those 2 months worth of dollars in the bank so we can pay those bills. September 15th, we start getting our first state aid. October 15th, you get the large chunk of your first of 2 property tax payments. So we need to be able to get that 75 to 90 days of cash to be able to operate in the summer months.
Okay, thank you.
Director Potts, did you have any questions?
No, I do not.
Okay, thank you. Kevin, is that the end of your presentation? You got some more?
That's it for this part. You still got me though for other parts.
That's it for committee reports now? Did anyone have any other committee reports? Again, student board members, I don't want you all to feel like you're obligated to hang out here with us. We know you got schoolwork to get done and things like that, so we do appreciate it, but I don't want you to feel like you're obligated at all. So if you want any time, you guys can get up and leave. And thank you again for staying and introducing
Got a dedicated
yourselves.
group.
Yeah. Yep. Making sure I'm not missing nothing. All right, we will move on to items requiring action. May I have a motion on subject 11.01?
Mr. President,
Director Hayes.
I move the board approve the request for the SBRC and MSA for LEP instruction beyond 5 years in the amount of $204,777.84.
Second.
$201,777.84.
And seconded again.
Seconded by Director Klein Jerome. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. Director Hayes.
Yes.
Director Klein Jerome.
Yes.
Director Potts.
Yes.
Director Poston.
Yes.
Director Beck.
Yes.
Director Snyder.
Yes.
My vote is yes. Motion carries. May I have a motion on subject 11.02?
Mr. President,
Director Beck.
I move the board approve the administration recommendation to request to the SBRC for modified supplemental amount for open enrolled students in the 2021-2022 school year, not on the certified enrollment in the prior year, in the amount of $1,480,000 and $480,000.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Director Klein Jerome. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. Director Beck.
Yes.
Director Klein Jerome.
Yes.
Director Hayes.
Yes.
Director Poston.
Yes.
Director Snyder.
Yes.
Director Potts.
Yes.
My vote is yes. Motion carries. May I have a motion on subject 11.03?
Mr. President,
Director Klein Jerome.
I move the board extend the superintendent's contract for 1 year to continue through June 30th, 2024, with no other changes or additions to the contract.
Thank you. Is there a
Second.
Seconded by Director Beck. Is there any discussion?
Mr. President,
Director Poston.
I move to amend the motion to continue the contract through June 30th of 2025.
So you're adding another year, is what you're saying?
Oh, somebody has to second that?
So there's been a motion to amend to extend another year.
And I'll second that emotion.
Seconded by Director Snyder. I'm trying to keep notes for you here, Brenda. All right, all those in favor of the amendment to the motion?
Mr. President, there needs to be discussion.
Yeah, you're correct. I was trying to wrap it in my head, Director Potts. I apologize. Is there any discussion?
Mr. President,
Director Potts.
I'd like to ask Mr. Director Poston to give us a rationale.
Well, I just feel that with everything that's been going on, I think we need to show our support to the superintendent, and also I think to the Department of Ed. I think we've been in a lot of turmoil in the last couple of years, and I think we need some continuity, and I just feel that extended additional year will do that.
Bruce, or Director Potts, did you have anything else?
Nope, I appreciate the rationale.
Is there any other discussion? Director Hayes.
And just for clarity, it is extended 1 year with no additional changes or additions, correct? Director Poston?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Director Snyder.
I wanted to thank Director Poston for that, because I had tossed around the idea, but I didn't know how well it would be supported, because I think it's extremely important to show that the superintendent we have is for the long haul. We need to show our support to him, so that the rest of the staff also continues their support, and that we have a strong, solid district going forward.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, I'm going to call for the vote on the amendment to see how that goes, and then we'll go back to the original amendment. Let me get the amendment one out of the way. Director Poston.
Yes.
Director Snyder.
Yes.
Director Potts.
Yes.
Director Klein Jerome.
Yes.
Director Hayes.
Yes.
Director Beck.
Yes.
My vote is yes. Amendment passes. Now, can I have a motion on subject 11.03 as amended?
Mr. President,
Director Hayes.
I move the board extend the superintendent's contract for 2 years to continue through June 30th, 2025, with no other changes in addition to the contract.
Mr. President, Mr. President,
Yes.
I have a point of order.
Yes, sir.
You have a motion on the floor that was moved and seconded that has been amended.
Right.
There would be no necessity to have a second motion restating it.
That's what I thought. Thank you. And the original motion was made by Director Klein Jerome and seconded by Director Beck. I'll call for the vote on the amended motion. Director Klein Jerome.
Yes.
Director Beck.
Yes.
Director Hayes.
Yes.
Director Poston.
Yes.
Director Potts.
Yes.
Director Snyder.
Yes.
My vote is yes. Motion carries. Discussion items. Am I turning this over to you?
Josh?
The Food and Nutrition Services Department would like to purchase a new delivery truck. We have one that's got over 100,000 miles and is 11 years old. It has major wear and tear items that have taken place, and rather than spending the money to repair them, we feel we should replace it. Any questions around that?
Is this the truck that delivers meals to different buildings?
It delivers food items to all buildings. I mean, there's a number of trucks that do that, but yeah, this is one of them trucks.
Any other questions? Director Beck.
This is just a clarification because I think in the memo there might have been a typo. Deliveries. Oh no, I guess I wasn't reading it correctly. So deliveries have also increased for baked goods and commodities because of a new state contract. Can you explain that a little bit? Because I know we as a board voted on some contracts for bread actually recently. Can you just explain why we would have increased deliveries?
It has to do with our supply chain issues. So I think we're having to do a little bit more of that stuff and having to deliver more
Okay.
of the commodity items that we would normally buy from them, but we're having to make them and deliver them ourselves.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. I'm looking at, so you numbered off the trucks, but then there is another truck, number 459, that looks like it needs a bunch of work and it's rusting out as well. So why wouldn't we just get two to replace that one as well? I mean, I understand it has 79,000 miles on it, but if it's rusting out and everything else and we're doing it, would we get a better deal if we buy two? Because I mean, I'm assuming you're going to come to us with this one as well eventually.
I don't think we would get a lot different pricing. The reason we hold off is we have a budgeted amount for food and nutrition services PEPAL funds every year. So we're utilizing our budget that we have set for them to pay for that truck.
So if we used those funds to pay for that truck for this year, what do those funds get used for? I mean, what will we be taken away from if we're buying this truck versus if we just bought two and put more PEPAL money towards that so it was done and we didn't have to worry about it, and next year we could focus that money on whatever we're supposed to?
If we spent the money now, it would just be taken away from construction project costs that we utilize as PEPAL funds for now. So we have money, call it banking up, for some of the long range facilities planning things going on. So if we spend the money ahead of time or now, we're just pulling that money out of that budget.
What is that money budgeted for? What things do we use for food service that the PEPAL money goes? That's my question.
Oh, freezers and the bakery goods, things within the department that's needed, tables. I'm thinking of equipment used to bake goods, ovens, trays, things like that.
Okay. Oh, go ahead, Kevin.
The other thing to keep in mind too, if we can spread the purchases out, in 10 years, you never know what that PEPAL fund is going to be like. It may not be able to buy two vehicles in the same year. So spreading those purchases out so you could do one every year, every 2 to 3 years is much more palatable and much more able to be funded from the PEPAL fund if you have that spread instead of doubling up a year.
Okay. Well, I'm just looking at the stuff that needs to be done on that one. It seems like we'd spend more money than if we just bought a new one. I mean, that's what I was looking at it as.
And there's a possibility we may come back and ask for another vehicle at some point if we feel like that one needs to go too. But at this point, when I've been approached for it, it's not needed at this time.
Okay. As long as you don't think it's needed.
Talk to me in a month. It could change, but at this time, it hasn't been requested.
Okay. Any other questions? So I'm assuming this will be on for a vote at the next regular meeting in December. Superintendent Schneckhoff?
Go ahead.
Oh. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. Director Beck?
Since we're not voting on it yet, I was wondering if it would be possible just to reach out to the dealerships and see if we can get a good price, like a discount, a bulk discount on 2 trucks instead of 1. I know you don't think it'll be different, and it may not be, but I think it might be worth just reaching out. Because if they do happen to have the ability to give us a deal, maybe we want to consider taking it.
I'll check into it. Yep, I can do that.
I have one. It said this price quote is good till the expiration. I gotta go down and find it. When is the expiration date on this quote?
I have to look through them. I'm not sure.
Because I see that it was written July 13th. So I guess I'm concerned if we go back and they say, oh, sorry, changed the price.
Sorry, I'm trying to pull it up right now. The courtesy one.
That is definitely something that we can have before the next.
On the Linquist one, it does say, quote, valid until 8/22/21, so
So we're going to have to bring another one back. That's definitely something that we can put into the Friday report if it changes and exhibits that direction as well.
because with car shortages and all
Yeah.
that, I just don't want them saying, oh, that was back in August, and here we are, November, December, price went up.
Valid point.
Okay.
So Josh, let's gather that information and get it to the board.
Sure. Yep.
See, even administrators get homework too. Any other discussion on that? All right, I'll turn it over to Director Beck for policies for board's second discussion.
Yeah, we only have 3 for second discussion tonight, and since we discussed them last week, 2 weeks ago, the first one is will be numbered 603.09. This is on academic freedom. This is again a policy that is strongly recommended, and basically puts into code. Standard academic freedom language that we already have. And Director Potts, just pipe in if you have any questions. The second one is policy 604.08 on foreign students. These are the requirements that we already have in place for foreign students. These are exchange students, typically who come to school with us. And then the last one is policy 604.09 on the homeschool assistance program. This is basically what we already do. This is authorizing the establishment of assistance to help students who are being homeschooled through the channels that we already have established. All right, so we will see these for a vote at our next regular meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Beck. Board requests. Are there any board requests? Any other board requests? Board request, Director Snyder, data request 11/22/21. Item requested, an agenda item. Description of request. Look at our high school dance team coaching needs. Our coaches are extremely underpaid when looking at surrounding districts. These coaches are with these kids year-round, and one paid coach is not enough. These high school teams have up to 50 kids participating, and they shouldn't have to rely on volunteers to assist. Why are you making this request? I have seen these dance teams programs pull kids out of their shell and are important to our schools. When would you like this request? Tonight is my last night, but I would like this looked at ASAP. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Director Costigan. Any other board requests? Any administrative reports?
None at this time.
Board reflections. We'll start with Director Snyder. You're the outgoing board member.
Well, I think, one, showing support for the decisions we've made as a board in extending our superintendent's contract shows that we believe in what he's doing, and we believe in the direction we're heading, and I think that is a pretty good takeaway.
Thank you, Director Haight.
I enjoyed Kevin's detailed report to let us know and where we are, and Director Poston continuously says we're not out of the woods yet, and I just appreciate Kevin going through and pointing out different things that we need to look at and continue to look at. And also, I appreciate Director Poston amending the motion to show our solidarity and support for Superintendent Snackloff. There's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes of the board meetings that everyone is not privy to get that information. But when it all rolls out, I'm just really happy that, everyone's on the same page and see where we are, and that we continue to work and give him that extra 2 years to do what's asked of him. And I think that was a great move tonight.
Thank you, Director Klein-Jerome.
I also think it's great we extended the contract. It just shows that despite things that are said outside of our district, and we support our superintendent and believe he's doing what's best for us. I also appreciate the fact that we take a deep dive into our finances, because we are never going back to what happened before.
Thank you, Director Poston.
Well, I think everything's already been said, but again, what Karen just said, we're never going to go back to where we were. That's, for me, that's going to be a reality. But the other thing, I want to thank all the board members, student board members. Appreciate your time. Some of these meetings are not easy to sit through, but hopefully you're going to learn something. But most importantly, it'll be something that, later on in life that you'll think about getting involved in something like this. So I appreciate your time, and I know you are all very busy, and but just know that you're appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Beck.
Director Poston took my first one. I just wanted to say thank you to and welcome to our new student board members. It's a steep learning curve, but you'll find out that there's a lot of detail that goes into how the district is run. And then I also wanted to thank Director Snyder for his service. And also, I really appreciate the fact that Director Poston amended our motion on the superintendent contract. It was also something that I thought about, but I am not quite as well versed in the finances and things like that, and how it would work as he is. So I appreciate that. And just for the record, I have no interest in mandating vaccines for children in our district.
Thank you. Board reflections are only
COVID vaccines.
Board reflections are only about what we discussed at this meeting, so that's not the place for you to do that, but thank you. Director Potts.
I think the highlight was that financial presentation, and for me, the most impressive part of it is that now, after all of our training, I understood what he was saying.
True that.
Okay, I mean, I'll just leave it at that. And to Jamie, it was great sitting next to you. I hope your job is less stressful than being on the board.
Thank you, Director Potts. Director Schneckla, or Superintendent Schneckla.
Well, it's always tough to have people talk about you in a public space, but I want you to know that I'm incredibly honored to work for this district and our students, and I'm just honored from the bottom of my heart, and we will continue to work our tails off for the students sitting in front of us, and so I just am honored, so thank you. We will get an opportunity to talk about that man a little later, correct?
Yep.
Okay, then I'll save these for later than Jamie. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Schneckloff. I echo what every board member has said, as well as student board members. It is a testament to sit here this long. We appreciate that very much. Not a lot of people understand how school boards work and all the things that we have to do and things like that. So it's a great learning experience, and thank you all for taking some time out of your Monday night. I'm sure you could be watching football, doing homework, or whatever. So again, thank you very much. And with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. I call to order the annual meeting of the Davenport Community School District Board of Directors. There are no annual meeting reports, correct?
Correct.
All right. We will move on to the annual meeting items requiring action. Does Kevin come up to the podium and read this before we vote, or after we make the motion?
Do you want him to, can you do it from there?
Yeah, you can do it.
Go ahead, Kevin.
I get to put my treasurer hat on. As treasurer, there's two reports that need approval. It is our annual settlement report. It's a fancy word for this is where we ended with our cash balances in cash and investments at each of the banks. This is an entirety of all funds combined. So this is everything. So this is just a report where we ended the year. There's a cover letter that goes with it of why we have to take that action for this annual report, but the annual settlement report is what you're approving. Combined with that is the Secretary's annual report. This is basically the bank reconciliation for the end of June of where we ended in each of the funds. And it's 2 pages, but it shows that our $123 million for the second report. So those two reports are needing approval for the annual meeting.
Do you have questions for Kevin? Are you, all right. May I have a motion for subject 19.01, the annual sediment report?
Mr. President,
Director Hayes.
I recommend the board approve the annual settlement report as presented.
Second.
Seconded by Director Klein Jerome. Is there any discussion? Director Beck.
Just for clarification, and I probably ask this question every year, but on the summary, could you explain why there are so many banks listed that have zero balances in them?
When we get to the next item, we have to show all the banks that we authorized for the year of potentially being able to do business with.
Okay.
And you'll see on the next report that we have all the banks listed. So if we ever hit a situation where we needed to do business with a bank that isn't on this list, I would have to come to you with a resolution to say, hey, we want to put X amount of dollars in this bank. We'd have to do another resolution to give me authorization to do business with that bank. So we do this in a group so that if something happens, we can do that relatively quickly.
Okay, so basically, it's just, they're not like there's accounts sitting out there. These are banks that we have the potential to use if we need to.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Director Poston.
Kevin, what makes up, as far as the FDIC, as far as insurance, isn't there a top dollar amount?
Generally, what you see at the bank is a $200,000 FDIC insured. That is true. But for public funds, we have a state sinking fund that all banks have to contribute. And then basically, it's an insurance policy where all the banks in the state of Iowa put into this fund. So should a bank become insolvent, this insurance fund that all the banks pay that have public funds put into so that all public institutions will get refunded all of their money. It protects it in that respect.
Is there an advantage to having most of it in one bank? Is it from a interest standpoint or?
Probably in the past 5+ years, no. Because it's been pretty flat, almost nothing. So, no. Unless there's going to be something that changes economically where there's some better competition and there's a little bit more spread between banks as far as interest rates.
You, under investments, you've got the joint investment trust, Iowa Schools. What makes up the other investments, the $5.5 million?
Those are CDs.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. Director Hayes?
Yes.
Director Klein Jerome?
Yes.
Director Postian?
Yes.
Director Potts?
Yes.
Director Snyder?
Yes.
Director Beck?
Yes.
My vote is yes, motion carries. Are you presenting to us on this one as well?
Yes. This one, the resolution, there isn't an attachment, but the resolution is so that when you approve bills every single month, this is a resolution that needs to be attached. It's just so that you're saying as a board, when we do this for bills every month, that this is a resolution we will make.
For clarity, it's just what would be read every month when we approve bills. Is
Correct.
what this is to approve that?
Yes.
Director Beck.
I was just going to move that we adopt the resolution.
All right, motion's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Do we need to read the resolution into the minutes?
I think I do. Sorry. I move the board approve the following annual resolution for the payment of bills. Be it resolved that in between regularly scheduled board meetings, that after the bills have been reviewed by the board and verified by the administration, board treasurer, and superintendent, the board president may be authorized to approve payment of claims and warrants drawn on the treasury for the several amounts, including payment of claims and salaries. Be it further resolved, the board will officially approve these warrants at the next regular board meeting, and the warrants will be entered in the minutes of the record.
Thank you, Director Beck. The motion has been made by Director Beck, seconded by Director Hayes. Is there any discussion on the motion as presented? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. Director Beck?
Yes.
Director Hayes?
Yes.
Director Klein Jerome?
Yes.
Director Postian?
Yes.
Director Potts?
Yes.
Director Snyder?
Yes.
My vote is yes, motion carries. Are you presenting on this one as well, Kevin?
Yes.
Turn it over to you.
This section is the naming the financial institutions and setting a maximum amount that we can invest with at any given time. So we set these limits higher than what we'll do, but we cannot exceed that. So if we exceed one of those amounts, we have to cap that, or we need to come back and ask for a resolution to amend this resolution. So this just gives the board the authority to say, use these amounts, and it gives me the direction to make sure that we invest not to exceed.
Director Klein Jerome.
Who determines these amounts since they do vary, and what's the rationale for who gets what amount?
Yep. Lisa and I do that because we look at the cash balances every month. So we're trying to make sure that these are at the high mark because we have ebbs and flows of our cash balances. So we set it a little bit higher than what we would at the high level of dollar amounts.
But why does, say, Wells Fargo is at 60 million versus Blackhawk Bank and Trust is 5 million?
The 5 millions are set because we don't really use those at this point in time, but should we have to do something, let's say we went out and did a $4 million note and one of these banks bid on that, that would set us up for having that bank having within the limit. So we put that as a placeholder. Wells Fargo has other funds. We have done business with Wells Fargo much more than we are currently, so that's why that's set at 60 million. Wells Fargo is a major player in some of the bonding as well, in the notes, so that's set higher.
So there are other factors that determine who gets the more.
Correct.
Got
It doesn't mean that we have to invest those amounts. It gives us a holding place to be able to not exceed those amounts should we need to do other business.
Director Passion, do you have a question? No?
I'm gonna make a motion.
Oh, Director Passion.
Mr. President, I move the Board of Directors adopt a resolution naming financial institutions which may be used as depositories of funds and the maximum amount that may be deposited in each financial institution at any one time. The list submitted is designed to cover the maximum possible amounts anticipated under the recommended revision in investment procedures. Do I need to read all these? Oh, I read the wrong one.
I just realized.
Okay, so do you want me to read that? Okay. Move the board adopt the following resolution resolved by the Board of Directors of the Davenport Community School District in the counties of Scott and Muscatine, state of Iowa, that the following named financial institutions are hereby designated as depositories of funds for said school district in amounts not to exceed the amounts hereinafter set forth, and the school district's treasurer is hereby authorized to deposit the Davenport Community School District's funds in the amount not to exceed named for said financial institutions as presented. Do I need to read the financial institutions or not?
No, because you said as presented. Thank you, Director Passion. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Director Beck. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. Director Passion?
Yes.
Director Beck?
Yes.
Director Potts?
Yes.
Director Snyder?
Yes.
Director Klein Jerome?
Yes.
Director Hayes?
Yes.
My vote is yes, motion carries. May I have, is anyone present? No, probably not, right? May I have a motion on subject 19.04, approval of legal counsel?
Mr. President,
Director Klein Jerome.
I move that the board approve using the legal services of Lane and Waterman LLP to represent the corporation and advise the board until the board's annual meeting in 2022.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Director Hayes. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. Director Klein Jerome?
Yes.
Director Hayes?
Yes.
Director Poston?
Yes.
Director Potts?
Yes.
Director Snyder?
Yes.
Director Beck?
Yes.
My vote is yes, motion carries. May I have a motion to adjourn the annual meeting?
So moved.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 I adjourn the annual meeting. Let me get my next. I now call to order the organizational meeting. Brenda, I forgot to stop the recorder, so it's still going. Brenda, if you please come up and report on the canvass of votes.
I will do so. Following is an abstract of the votes cast at the city school election held on Tuesday, November 2nd, 2021 for Davenport School District as shown by the county abstract returns. Bruce Potts received 5,605 votes. Farrah N. Powell received 3,106 votes. Karen Gordon received 4,887 votes. Allison Beck received 5,513 votes. Hannah Doyle received 1,577 votes. James Quinn received 1,644 votes. Scattering received 124 votes. It is therefore declared Bruce Potts, Karen Gordon, and Allison Beck are duly elected to the office of Davenport School Director for the term of 4 years, beginning Monday, November 22nd, 2021. This document was signed by the members of the Board of Supervisors and ex officio County Board of Canvassers.
Thank you, Brenda. Now we will recognize outgoing board member Director Snyder. We're going to do this first. You want to come over to the podium? Gotta wait for the camera crew to get over here. I'm going to get fingerprints all over this. This is presented to Jamie Snyder in appreciation, it'd help if I read it the right way, for outstanding service to the Davenport School Board from 2013 to 2016 and now 2020 to 2021. Greatly appreciate your service on the board and filling a vacancy that we had when Director Mayfield passed away.
Thank you very much.
You need a photo? You want one with the whole board?
Bruce is.
Well, we could probably get his picture up on the screen. All right. Put it so they can read it.
Smile.
You're not wearing the dog mask?
No.
Are there any board members that would like to say any outgoing things about Director Snyder? Director Hayes.
The second time around that we have sat on the same board, and I'm going to miss you. You know, you always had insightful conversation, and you were an asset to the board. And I know this isn't it. You'll continue to watch us and text us, and I just hate to see you go. And thank you for your service.
Thank you. Director Klein-Jerome.
I was always impressed. You were very thoughtful in your responses. You addressed students by name when they presented and acknowledged that what they'd done was a good thing. You know, you got in at a time when, you know, who knew all the things that were going to hit us at once during this time, but I appreciate the fact that you were willing to come back onto the board and step up and help us out.
Thank you. Director Beck.
Yeah, you've been an excellent colleague on the policy committee. I know you were on the policy committee your first time around, and watching some of those board meetings is how I learned how to do the policy. So I appreciate that. Even though you didn't know it, you were kind of mentoring me in that respect. But you've always had very thoughtful and insightful comments at policy committee meetings and at LCAC meetings, and I know that you will continue to serve our district well, and you're here for a good reason. And I know if circumstances were different, you would have stayed on if you could have dedicated the time. So I just want to say we really appreciate your work, and thanks. Also, I think I got your computer when I got elected, so thank you.
Thank you. Director Poston.
Well, the two gals on either side of me kind of said the same thing I was going to say, and the one word was your thoughtfulness. I really appreciate that. And then your dedication to student achievement. I think you've been a huge asset. Wish you could have stayed on longer, but understand what entails with the job and everything. So again, thank you very much, Jamie.
Director Potts, did you have anything you wanted to say?
Yes. We all on the board work hard, and we all intellectually do a lot of thinking. But I think one of the things that I was most impressed by and moved by Jamie is that not only does he have the intellect, but he leads with his heart and his emotion on issues, and that leads to having passion. And that's what I was always had been most impressed about. He's passionate about what he believes in, and he doesn't conceal his emotions on subjects. And I think that's an important quality for anybody serving the public, specifically when you're dealing with helping schools be more successful. You're a great contributor to what went on in our board, and I wish you the best of luck in your job. I know you're leaving an unpaying job and you got a good raise on your new job, so good for you, pal.
Thank you, Director Potts. Superintendent Schneckloff.
Well, you're an absolute easy person to talk about. Honor and integrity are the first two words that come to mind outside of what Director Potts said. Anybody that's ever served on a committee with you or worked side by side with you knows that they're getting a very honorable person that carries that out with integrity. I've had the opportunity to be on several committees with you, sit on this board with you, in probably the toughest times in Davenport Community School District's history, and you've done that with pride, honor, and integrity. You always put kids first. As an administration, and our board members do too, you always put kids first. No one will ever doubt or question that, because that's where everything comes back to Jamie Snyder. In tough times, Jamie Snyder will be there. I think about over the last couple of years, you stepped up, didn't bat an eye, jumped right in, knew exactly what we needed at the time, and I can't tell you how important that is to a district, to a community, and to a leadership team, and you embodied that. You have the ability to make tough decisions, just like the one you're making now. I know is very tough for you because you have the ability to lead and to continue to do that, but this is a tough decision for you, and I know that is something inside of you. I also know that in the past, when a tough decision needed to be made, you were ready to make that decision, and for that, I respect you for that, and thank you for that. The last thing I want to say about Jamie Snyder is that you have a legacy here with your family, your children, but also the work that you've done. There are things that are running through our legislation right now that you were a part of, that made happen. The equity that is occurring all across the state, you were a part of that. The policies being aligned, tightly aligned, you were a part of that. Our LCAC will be greatly changed, and you are a part of that. All of that is legacy work. It reminds me of the reason why you do this are those things listed there. You have honor, you have integrity, you put kids first. In tough times, you can make a decision, and you have left a legacy here. And for that, Jamie, I greatly thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.
I should have made you go last. Any administrators from the cabinet or anything, would you like to say any words for Director Snyder? I think they echo what everybody else said, or they just think you're too cool. I don't know. I don't really know what more I can add to it. It's been great to work with you 2 times now on the board. You've been a huge asset. So I am going to miss your puppy dog mask. I mean, that was always fun. I was kind of hoping you were going to have it for the picture tonight, but again, thank you so much for your service. I know work calls and you got a little more time commitment there, and I understand that, and definitely look forward to working with you in the future and things like that. And again, thank you so much for everything you've done for this district and for our students and our board. So now I'm going to let you say whatever you would like to say, sir.
Well, I mean, thank you all. It's been an absolute honor and privilege to fill in these last 14, 15 months. Every single one of you fits what was generously said, to me, every one of you works your tail off. And this district is a better district because you are all on this board. I don't think many people can really realize the amount of time it takes to do this position. And even though I'm going to miss the huge salary and the comprehensive dental plan, I'm just going to have to find other ways to pay for my vacation home and the Keys. But every one of you is just outstanding. You each bring a quality to this board that I think makes it an absolute outstanding board. And all I can say is don't ever turn into a yes ma'am, yes sir board. The simple fact that everybody doesn't always agree is what makes this a good board. You leave no stones unturned. The discussions are thoughtful and outstanding. And that's all I want to say, because frankly, this really isn't my term ending. I only have the privilege to work with you guys because of the passing of Director Mayfield. This would have been, if he didn't rerun the end of his term. So I don't want to take anything away from that. And the main reason I didn't rerun is the added workload I have at my job, and I didn't want to do it virtually. I don't think that gives this position what it needs when we have outstanding people that are willing to come in with new thoughts, new ideas, and give this the attention that it deserves. So congratulations to Director Gordon. You guys are going to do very well, and it was an absolute privilege.
Thank God Brenda has to do the next part. She has to kick you out of your seat.
Yep.
Brenda, if you'd please come up to the podium, and I will, I believe I turn it over to you now, correct?
I think so, for a little bit. Until then.
Everybody hold on. Brenda is in charge of the district for the next little bit here.
I won't do anything crazy. Mr. Potts?
Yes.
I'm going to administer your oath. Will you repeat after me?
I'm ready.
I, Bruce Potts, do solemnly swear
I, Bruce Potts, do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Iowa,
and the Constitution of the State of Iowa,
and that I will faithfully and impartially,
and that I will faithfully and impartially,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
discharge all the duties
discharge all the duties
of the Office of Director,
of the Office of Director,
Davenport Community Schools,
Davenport Community Schools,
in the County of Scott, State of Iowa,
in the County of Scott, State of Iowa,
as now or hereafter required by law.
as now or hereafter required by law.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Beck. Please stand, raise your right hand, and repeat after me. You can just do it right there.
Just turn your microphone on so I can hear you.
I, Allison Beck, do solemnly swear
I, Allison Beck, do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Iowa,
and the Constitution of the State of Iowa,
and that I will faithfully and impartially,
and that I will faithfully and impartially,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
discharge all the duties
discharge all the duties
of the Office of Director,
of the Office of Director,
Davenport Community Schools,
Davenport Community Schools,
in the County of Scott, State of Iowa,
in the County of Scott, in the State of Iowa,
as now or hereafter required by law.
as now or hereafter required by law.
Thank you. Ms. Gordon, would you please stand, raise your right hand, and repeat after me?
Brenda, do you want to
Yeah. Do you want to come over or come to this one, Karen? I, Karen Gordon, do solemnly swear
I, Karen Gordon, do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Iowa,
and the Constitution of the State of Iowa,
and that I will faithfully and impartially,
and that I will faithfully and impartially,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
discharge all the duties
discharge all the duties
of the Office of Director,
of the Office of Director,
Davenport Community Schools,
Davenport Community Schools,
in the County of Scott, State of Iowa,
in the County of Scott, State of Iowa,
as now or hereafter required by law.
as now or hereafter required by law.
Thank you. You may
Thank
take
you.
your seat at the table.
All right, Brenda, if you hang out for 1 second. I recommend the board nominate Brenda T., Board Secretary, to serve as temporary chair for the election of officers.
Second.
No second required.
Oh. Gotcha.
Thank you.
Turn it over to you, Miss T.
Okay. I'm going to explain the voting process. I hope you had a chance to read it. Also, it's kind of complicated. I will explain the rules of order for the voting process for the election of officers. If there is more than one nomination, the board automatically casts their votes for president and vice president by a signed written ballot. We will use the Roman system for this process. So if there are more than two people nominated. If there are 3 nominations for an office, the first vote will be by written ballot. The person with the highest number of votes will not be included in the second ballot. The second vote will be between those receiving the lower number of votes. Then the winner of the second ballot will then challenge the person with higher votes from the first ballot. If there are 2 or more people nominated, each person will be given a few minutes to share the reasons why they should be elected to office prior to taking the vote. Following their comments, the written vote will be held using the rules discussed. Any questions? Okay. If there's only one nomination, are the remaining board members willing to cast their vote by a roll call vote or by a written ballot? As I call each of your names, will you please answer either roll call or written? If there's no consensus, it automatically defaults to written ballot. So please answer roll call or written ballot. Director Poston?
Roll call.
Director Gosa?
Roll call.
Director Beck?
Roll call.
Director Klein-Jerome?
Roll call.
Director Hayes?
Roll call.
Director Gordon?
Roll call.
Director Potts?
Roll call.
Therefore, if we have only one nomination, we will have consensus by roll call. We will start with the election of president. May I have a nomination for the office of president? There's no second required.
Madam
Sorry. I nominate Dan Gosa as president.
Director Klein-Jerome nominates Director Gosa. Do you accept the nomination?
Yes, I do.
Are there any other nominations for the office of president? Hearing no more nominations, the nominations are declared closed. Since there's only one person nominated, is it your wish for the board to elect Gosa as president? That is the question. When I call your name, please answer yes or no. Director Poston?
Yes.
Director Gordon?
Yes.
Director Beck?
Yes.
Director Gosa?
Yes.
Director Potts?
Yes.
Director Hayes?
Yes.
Director Klein-Jerome?
Yes.
I therefore declare Daniel Gosa president of the Davenport School Board until November 2022. All right. We will move on to the election of vice president. May I have a nomination for the office of vice president?
Madam Chair,
President Gosa?
I nominate Director Hayes.
Do you accept the nomination?
Yes.
Are there any other nominations for the office of vice president? Hearing no more nominations, the nominations are declared closed. Since there's only one person nominated, is it your wish for the board to elect Director Hayes as vice president? That is the question. When I call your name, Please answer yes or no. Director Postian,
Yes.
Director Gordon,
Yes.
Director Beck,
Yes.
Director Gosa,
Yes.
I'm sorry, President Gosa now. Director Potts,
Yes.
Director Hayes,
Yes.
Director Klein-Jerome.
Yes.
I therefore declare Linda Hayes Vice President of the Davenport School Board until November 2022. I will now give the oath of office to the President and the Vice President. President Gosa, please stand, raise your right hand, and repeat after me. I, Daniel Gosa,
I, Daniel Gosa,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
to support the Constitution of the United States
to support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Iowa,
and the Constitution of the State of Iowa,
and that I will faithfully and impartially,
and that I will faithfully and impartially,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of the Office of School Board President
of the Office of School Board President
in the Davenport Community School District,
in the Davenport Community School District,
as now or hereafter required by law.
as now or hereafter required by law.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Vice President Hayes, will you please stand, raise your right hand, and repeat after me. I, Linda Hayes,
I, Linda Hayes,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
to support the Constitution of the United States
to support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Iowa,
and the Constitution of the State of Iowa,
and that I will faithfully and impartially,
and I will faithfully and impartially,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of the Office of School Board Vice President
of the Office of School Board Vice President
in the Davenport Community School District,
in the Davenport Community School District,
as now or hereafter required by law.
as now or hereafter required by law.
Thank you. And I now turn the chair back over to President Gosa.
You didn't want to hold on to it any longer, huh? Thank you. All right, the next item is board standing committees. The finance committee, you both still want to stay on finance, I assume?
Yes.
Okay. Is anyone else interested in being on finance committee? Legislative Advocacy Committee, Director Postian and myself are on that. Director Postian, you still want to? Perfect. Does anyone else want to be on Legislative Advocacy? Okay. LZAC, Director Beck and Director Snyder were on that, so Director Beck, do you want to continue with that?
I'm fine continuing with that, yes.
What's that?
I am okay continuing with that,
Okay.
yes.
Is anyone else interested in being on Director Gordon? Anyone else interested in being on LZAC? Thank you. Long-range facilities planning, Director Potts and myself are on that. Director Potts, do you want to stay on that, I assume?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Does anyone else want to be on the long-range facilities plan? Okay. Policy Committee, is Director Beck, myself, and Director Snyder was on there, so there is an opening. Does anyone want to be on policy?
I would like to be on policy.
Director KJ. All right. Everyone get a chance to look at did you get a chance to see the board calendar? So everyone got a chance to look at the board calendar? We'll do a motion in a second, then we can have discussion on if there's any questions or anything like that. I'll entertain a motion for subject 2301 the approval of the board meeting calendar.
Mr. President,
Director Hayes.
I move that the board accept the new calendar as written,
As presented.
as presented. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Second.
Seconded by Director Klein Jerome. Is there any discussion?
I'd like to know if we could either do all 5:30 meetings or all 6 o'clock meetings, but not have one 5:30 and two 6 o'clock. I don't care which time, but just make it consistent.
Oh, and we can do that. That's appropriate to do it right now too, right? Okay. What Director Klein Jerome is referring to, like the committee of the holes are at 5:30 and then all of our regular meetings at 6. And just having one set time for all. Is 6 o'clock good for all? Or would you rather the 5:30?
I'd rather 5:30.
Me too.
Okay. All right, so there's 2 for 5:30. Director Posham, where would you be at? 5:30?
I'd prefer 6, but I can live with either.
5:30 is fine.
I'm good with 6.
5:30.
5:30.
I prefer 6.
So 3 at 6 and 4 at 5:30. That's because it's past some of their bedtimes. So 5:30, everyone. 5:30. Director Beck.
I guess I would just say, is this going to, before we make this decision, is this going to affect some of our other pre-meeting meetings that sometimes happen, like evaluations and things like that? Are those going to have to now happen at like 4 o'clock or even earlier? Because that could potentially be an issue.
Yes, so generally, like if we have the evaluation, something we meet an hour before. So that's why we've been meeting at 5. But we would have to meet at 4:30 if we did the meetings at 5:30. I don't know if that changes anything for anybody, but
Could we run it at 5:30 for a few months? And if we say, oh, this just isn't working for people, then we could adjust it then? I mean, is it have to be for 12 months, our time?
we can set it at whatever, right?
Well, it would seem to me if we're doing this by consensus, if we do this for 4 or 5 months and we decide it isn't working by consensus, we can change it.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. So 5:30 for the board meeting times. And then as far as the calendar goes, is there any questions on the calendar?
I like when we went to 2 regular meetings in the summer rather than a committee of the whole, because I think action needs to happen during the summer when people are coming and going.
Superintendent Schneckloff.
We talked about it's absolutely necessary to have the 2 regular meetings in July and June. We also talked about combining those 2 cows. So instead of losing those hours, finding a time to do a board retreat. So today at our IASB meeting, we talked about coming back, finding a time that works for everybody, where we could dig deep down into probably the board's plan coming into the next year, goals. We could fill that time very easily. So the potential of doing a retreat, utilizing those hours on a different time, either in July or August. So example would be taking that August 1st committee of the whole and extending it and digging deeper into a topic. Or I know Dr. Beck has and Director Gordon are going to be in the policy committee recommending some things that are going to have a Klein drum. Thank you. What did I say? Anyway,
You already got the Karens mixed up.
I did, didn't I? Sorry, I apologize about that. But there are going to be some items that are going to require some deep conversation. The very first time I messed it up. I apologize to both Karens. Get it out of the way.
Any other thoughts on the calendar before we vote on it? I'm trying to gloss over
Thank you very
TJ's
much.
miscue
I
there
appreciate
without bringing it up. And he looked right at you.
I know. I noticed that. Hello?
It's terrible.
Seeing no other discussion, I will call for the vote. Director Hayes,
Yes.
Director Klein Jerome,
Yes.
Director Poston,
Yeah.
Director Gordon,
Yes.
Director Potts,
Yes.
Director Beck.
Yes.
My vote is yes, motion carries. I didn't miss anything, right? We're ready to. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
There we go. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Meeting adjourned. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.